Colonel Simon, very good evening to you. Welcome to the Independent Republic of Mike Graham. Interesting what Tom said there. I mean, Tom, I've got a lot of time for. He covers the conflict there in the Middle East for us and has done for since the beginning of it, really. But I mean, isn't it interesting that even he has almost, by describing it, normalised the fact that people in Israel live in a country which is under constant bombardment, one way or another, from either Lebanon with Hezbollah or Gaza with Hamas, and now Iran firing all these drones and missiles.
No, you're right. There is a sort of sense of what is normal and what is abnormal is different from different people, and certainly for the Israelis, that constant sense of threat from different directions sits with them the whole time, and so their reactions are going to be based as much on that rather than specifics of the attack by Iran, and which had 300 plus drones, missiles, etc. So the judgment of what is an appropriate response is not just that attack which was thwarted, but also the background of continual threat from them as well.
And do you think that the fact that Israel has not yet retaliated is a kind of confirmation that Benjamin Netanyahu is listening to the West and to his allies who say, let's not get carried away?
He's certainly having to listen to them. I mean, very quickly. I mean, firstly, you've got to say, the Iranians, before the attack had even been finally launched, basically said, as far as they're concerned, the issue is now closed. They were referring to, if you like, the retaliation from the attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus. Whether Netanyahu will, if you like, take the advice of President Biden, who just said to take the win, or as Tom quite rightly pointed out, people now indicating what an extraordinary situation, what an extraordinary strategic inflection point we've just had. We've had Sunni Muslim states, not just Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Emirates and Omanis, all providing intelligence to a coordinated air defense response to Iran. And that seems to me to be a really important strategic win for Israel. And so I think the equation is, do you go with that, which, if you like, indicates a much wider idea of security in the Middle East, indeed one that was actually starting to come about before October the 7th, or do you deal with, if you like, the shock and revulsion of attack directly onto Israeli soil? And so the test, I think, for Netanyahu is, what sort of leader is he? Can he actually tell his people, actually, we've just achieved something quite extraordinary? It wasn't necessarily just the thwarting of Iran. We've actually got people on our side, including people who in the past have been our opposition or have been somehow unfriendly towards them. And I think that's the real dilemma for him. But there you get into the whole issue about his own internal politics and how that swings around.
Because also there have been many pieces written in the last couple of weeks about how it may well be that Hamas kind of lured Israel into a trap on October the 7th because they knew that Israel's response would be, in the rest of the world's view, over the top. They knew that Israel would lose sympathy. But now Israel have actually got sympathy back, and perhaps they've got the momentum with their own case at the moment. And maybe he's thinking, let's not make the same mistake twice.
No, I think that's exactly it. I read the article. It was a very good article by Matthew Syed.
Yeah.
So dope when I wrote the Muhammad Ali analogy, and I thought it was a very good one from there.
Yeah.
As you say, there's Israel has now rightly recaptured the moral high ground, which the whole world thought that it had after the awful attack on October the 7th. So again, there's a sort of, if you like, strategic incentive in terms of the court of world opinion for Israel to show restraint. The difficulty, I think, that the Netanyahu's got, if that's the way he's going to go, is up until now, the message he's very largely given to the Israeli people is, we will have peace and security in our land, but it's basically by being being armed and responsive. And they actually used to use the phrase, they call it double deterrence. So it's not just deterrence against what's happened, but double deterrence. So you hit back at least twice as hard, so you dissuade the opponent from doing something else again. The difficulty now is actually effectively he's achieved his deterrence, and the world's on his side. He's got this extraordinary coalition of people willing to protect Israel proper. And will he accept that, or will he still go back for this retaliation with all that kind of escalatory death spiral performance that might involve?
Sure. But I guess the other problem is if he does nothing, it may well be a signal, if not to Iran, but certainly to Hezbollah, that they should launch another attack. Because I was listening to Bob Seeley, MP, earlier on tonight, saying that they've learned from the Russians on this form of attack, where you send in a lot of very slow drones, which might confuse a missile sort of defence system, and then fire in some other rockets, which could actually cause a lot more damage if they try it again.
No, that's right. I mean, so there no doubt be elements what you call it, sort of armed reconnaissance in force, and that could exist. But having restraint doesn't necessarily mean that nothing ever happens at all. And before this, there's this series of attacks, so one on the consulate, followed by this counter-response. There's a low-level violence between Israel and Iran through proxies, assassinations, everything goes. I don't think that's going to stop. I mean, I think what you're basically saying is that this direct state-on-state attack, which is taking place, that's not going to happen again. But I think we will see a continuation of that sort of grey zone warfare, that hybrid form of rockets, missiles, assassinations, and use of proxies that carried on before. I don't think that's necessarily going to stop.